Generally, when looking at education, the metaphor that is often used is that of bricks and mortar. The knowledge learned is the bricks, and the mortar is the skills that the learner uses to bind the individual pieces of knowledge together to build the required education. Respectfully, I would like to disagree with this and suggest an alternative perspective. The bricks should instead be associated with the skills and the mortar with the knowledge. Although this might seem to be a pedantic, pointless difference, I think it's an important one, as it changes the entire emphasis of education towards a different outcome. If the emphasis is on knowledge, and we see knowledge as the fundamental purpose of education, that is, the house is built out of knowledge, with skills being the glue that holds it together, so to speak, then knowledge will be the main thing that education will be looking for. This means that in testing and assessment, the emphasis will be on the retention and application of knowledge. The main assessment will be knowledge-based, with the idea that a competent student will be one who can use the knowledge gained on pre-prescribed problems to show that they can use the knowledge. For example, what were the causes of World War II? What is the radius of a circle? Etc., etc. As opposed to, how do I solve a problem I have right now? The big issue I have with this is that if the knowledge is treated as the most important part, then it can't change. Obviously, it would be updated, but only in the same narrow field that it is part of. One of the most common complaints and difficulties that learners have with formal schooling, all throughout their childhood and young adulthood, is that school doesn't really prepare them for work. This isn't relevant to us. When are we ever going to use this? What's the point of learning all this stuff? The point is that if the foundational aspect of school is knowledge, then if that knowledge changes, as it usually does every few years, then all the assessment would have to change, the knowledge of the teachers would have to, and the resources would also have to change. However, the school system itself can't really change that much, because then it wouldn't be teaching the traditional knowledge that is so important and that people see as the fundamental foundation of education. This emphasis on knowledge was a good thing in traditional schooling when schools were first conceived and standardized because knowledge was at a premium, and standardized knowledge needed to be taught and handed down. Now, though, that is not true. It is no longer true that we need to pay in order to have access to books, articles, or papers. Instead, the skill comes in being able to sort the knowledge into what is accurate and what is inaccurate, or what is fact and opinion, or what is real and what is fake. The fact is that the nature of information will change constantly, and so will the information that people learn. Unless people can take control of their own learning and are able to apply the skills of continual education without formal schooling, then they will get left behind. Unfortunately, if our only experience of education has been formal schooling, then we are generally taught to believe that whatever anyone in authority tells us is the truth, and often we don't necessarily have the skills to find and identify the correct information that we need. Focusing on skills means that even as information changes, the skills necessary for finding and using the information will remain the same. Soft skills for dealing with others and practical skills such as financial literacy, numeracy, and social skills will still give someone the ability to find and apply new information as it becomes necessary. Having those skills are also a result of having experiences in the situations. Experiencing something is a much better teacher in general than simply reading about a situation and asking questions about it. Skills such as self-reflection and understanding how we ourselves react in a situation so that we can better be prepared for it in future are also useful to know and to master. This would also draw the emphasis for any assessment away from standard knowledge tests and more towards practical situations, whereby the learner can experience and use the things they have learned to gain mastery over their environment and themselves. Skills should be the bricks and the foundation, and the knowledge should be brought in as necessary to provide the mortar to hold the bricks together. This would also mean that the structure of education would be able to change and adapt much easier given a different environment and different conditions. A school should be built around the skills that are necessary within a particular environment, not brought over from somewhere different and just assumed that it should be the same. Form follows function. The form of the school should follow what it's actually trying to teach and not assume that there is only one way to educate everyone. If we focus on skills and on approaching situations from the attitude of learning, then instead of railing against a new situation because it doesn't stack up or mesh with my knowledge, hopefully I would be used to being flexible enough to use my skills of learning, problem solving, and imagination to be able to approach it with understanding and be prepared to flourish in whatever environment I'm in. That's something I wish they'd told me at school.